How's it going? I'm Ryan. Today I'm going to go over a few trades I took on MNQ. Ended the day with a small profit. Definitely ended up over trading today, but we were kind of able to turn things around at the end of the day. Um, go over a few things I was watching coming in to this morning, and then we'll get into the trades themselves. So I have a zone up above us. Didn't quite get there, but other than that, relevant areas just really Friday's high and low, and then pre-market high and low was what I was watching. We were kind of in a tight range in the pre-market and opening up within last Friday's range as well. So kind of wanted to give the day a little bit of time to things play out, see what we were looking like. I was watching for potential rejections around like yesterday's high, or excuse me, last Friday's high, and pre-market high, just because we did have a few rejections in that area. Is kind of top of the range that it was in. So that was one thing to watch. Other than that, we're just kind of giving the day a little bit of time to play out. So off the morning, we got a nice rejection off yesterday's high. I didn't get in. It was just right off the open, so I wasn't really trying to play anything that early. But that rejection off that area was nice. It dropped pretty significantly. Started to form a little bit of a base. You see, we get some price action to the downside. Instead of making these big moves down, we start to move kind of sideways, forming a hammer candle here on that low a day. So if we look at where we are on the hourly chart, you'll also see in this area that we have a previous pretty big swing high, and we have some support slash resistance depending on what side price action is on in this area back here. So I took my first trade right in here, and it was a long, which I will get into for a few reasons why I was looking at this and then why it was not such a great idea. So I did like that price was rounding out. I did like that we kind of had an area of support in here. If we're looking at like this zone, and then within last Friday's price action as well. I like that we formed a hammer, formed that low a day on that hammer, rallied really bullishly up into that EMA. That EMA is a pretty good sign though, as we rejected off of it. But when we rejected, we formed a higher low. So we kind of had these two little swing highs, like we'll try to pop up, fell down, popped up, fell down, and then broke out of that. So it broke out of that and then formed a higher low. And started to climb back up. And as we were kind of climbing back up, I got in. We rejected off that EMA again. What I was looking for, I was trying to hold this for a longer run, but I probably would have trimmed some up around this swing high. My stop loss was below this swing low here. So I was risking, a breakdown of the structure essentially. But it wasn't the greatest setup to the long side. I think we were close to kind of getting that round out. You see that we broke through. It stopped me out. I took a loss here. That it broke through to the downside, formed a lower low. But same thing, kind of rounded out. And then once we reclaimed that 20 MA, it was pretty much go time. But let's talk about it. So I took a loss here, trying to long it. Not great, because you can see this candle, we haven't closed above 20 EMA. We're rejecting off of it actively. And yeah, it clearly we hadn't got that full round out. Although, if it broke through here, it would have looked like a nice entry. But it was a little bit too early. I should have waited to like here when we reclaim it and retest it. That's a better entry than entering pretty much at the same exact price over here. But that wasn't great. I should have waited for a bit more confirmation. Yeah, we're still rejecting off that EMA, and I think waiting for that to completely shift would have been beneficial there. The second trade I took, maybe a bit of a revenge trade, but since I took this loss, I took a short position here, and I felt like this was pretty solid because we had this rounding up, these rejections off the EMA, a lower low. We came up. We're not looking particularly strong on the way up, like this. Pretty bearish. This candle has like a wick about half the entire candle is its upper wick. This is just you know, not very noteworthy to the upside. Then we have this where we retested that EMA and it got pushed down, 10, 12 points. So when we came up and retested this area again, I entered a short position. I was targeting that swing low, but we slowly kind of pushed our way up. So here it pushed up, but didn't close above that EMA, still looking good. Here we broke to the upside, and that's when we cut out. So that was another loss as well, looking at that rejection off that EMA, similar to what we saw here, and continuation to the downside. Why that didn't work, I think that run was already kind of too extended, right? You already see us try to run out, round out, start continuing down lower. Price action wasn't looking bullish, and we were still below that EMA. We were still making lower lows, lower highs. So I'm not mad at this necessarily. It just didn't happen to work out. Took a couple losses down a bit. I tried to short again up here when we came up to test this Friday's high. Once we printed this candle, I got in on the subsequent as we were pushing up to test it, but we pushed up a little bit too far above my liking. As you can see, I entered somewhere in here, 66. It got all the way up to like 84, so nearly 20 points. I usually allow about like 15 points a stop or so. So that one just kind of took me out by a little bit before pulling back, although it wouldn't have been necessarily such a big move unless you would have caught the top of that due to it, having a pretty bullish momentum and continuing up. That way we didn't get like a flush out of that area. So that was a third loss. At least I think I traded somewhere in between here too as well. I probably had more than three losses. But I was down on the day, and the one trade that brought me back, made me positive on the day, was longing here. And this is probably the best trade that I took, and it happened to work out because it actually made sense with trading with the trend and trading off of a level that I like. So we had the pre-market high. That pre-market high also coincided with this like local swing high, right? We've been kind of trending to the upside, and then we have these two almost like points that are at that like 18,695 level. So when we broke above it, retested, came down, and formed this like doji on it, that is when I entered longs on the following candle, pretty much right at that level, that pre-market high, and then just trimmed as we came up and sold. My runner was stopped out by this candle here. As we came up, I trimmed at the high of day. Once we broke high of day, I trimmed a bit more, and then left runner with my stop loss below the swing low. And it stopped out my runner. So not a big day by any means, but was able to catch one good move and make it up. It was kind of all over the place. Overtraded for sure. First trade was kind of bad. Second trade, thought we were gonna trick me a little bit, but probably not the best trade either. Third trade was not the best trade, I guess, at least in terms of going with overall trend rather than trying to short the strength that we had here. And then this trade was the final trade, actually a decent setup, actually a decent trade that happened to move 40 points or so. So that's it. Not too much depth, but yeah, today was tricky. I saw a lot of people kind of got burnt. I think especially because we had stuff like this, just massive drop and then a massive recovery, massive drop. Price was pretty wild. We got an insane run from here to here, and then a massive drop followed by almost a total recovery, and then kind of more choppy, rangy stuff. So yeah, to come out of it with a win, like I said, didn't have the best discipline, but we're able to manage it better. That's all I got. I trade live Monday through Friday. I'll be here, and I appreciate you. Hope you have a great day. Peace.